Okay, we are live. We got a thumbs down already. Sweet.
Yes.
My dad was telling me the other day, he's like, listen, Nick, I watched a lot of your shows and you really got to swear less. But the thumbs down makes me want to swear more, but I'll try and keep it clean, at least for the first
Yeah.
minute. What's going
Let's,
on, dog?
let's kick it off strong.
Yeah, I've done that so many times. Um, I'm just coming off another call. God, I'll tell you this, Joey. I think DePIN is about to take TF off if I'm going to drop all my swear words. But man, this space is starting to get super exciting, and I think it'll be a little while before it's public, all that stuff. But from what I'm seeing on the kind of backside, it's things are going down, things are happening.
Cool. Good. Yeah.
What's
I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff. Starting to see projects that feel pretty robust. And yeah, but more of this stuff, we got to just keep leading the charge.
Yeah, yeah. All right, what's new this week? I got caught up in a bunch of calls and have zero notes, so we're just going to run this thing on the fly. What do you got?
Sure. A couple of hips, a couple of, I got my standard kind of work in progress stuff going on, but um, the IoT working group for Helium pulled together some, well, let me start over. Bones from the community. This guy out of Australia. He runs an LNS. Pretty knowledgeable in
Yeah.
device operating space, all that. He put together a HIP to basically repeg the price for dev adders. And so, for those that don't know, a dev adder is part of the keys that you need to bring devices onto Helium and onto any LoRaWAN network.
Yep.
And so the Helium Foundation has a big old pool of dev adders as part of our sponsor member with the LoRa Alliance. And so we tend to dole those out as people onboard and you need to do stuff there. The status quo was $800 for 8 of them. And they had to be purchased in these blocks of 8. And so
I want my money back, Joey.
sorry, that's not part of the deal. Should have gotten in the hip. And so, yeah, we, through a lot of back and forth, came up with, I think, a pretty elegant way to make these more accessible and make it easier for existing folks to scale, which is just to move that price needle from $800 to $100 for that slab of 8. So now the cost for somebody to come and onboard to the Helium network from nothing is to get an OUI. That's still $100 paid in data credits. The dev adders for $100, and then a minimum of $35 of data credits in the escrow account.
Okay.
So $235 all in, basically. And then the other interesting thing that this HIP does is it sets a path for all of the OUI and the dev adders to be paid using the IoT token instead of data credits. So sort of a economic moving things around
Cool.
going on
Yeah,
there.
that makes it easier.
Yeah.
See,
So that's up for vote right now.
Okay.
So folks go take a look at that.
Vote on that. Make my early investment, which I consider every dollar I put into crypto is just burned money, and it's my job to have as much fun as possible burning that money. And I think that's a good way to look at this. Let's see,
Yep.
Nico, drop us a shill on sensors. I want to modernize my garden, make a happy farm animal app. Okay.
Let's do it.
Um,
What's it need to buy, Nick?
so it always, depends what you want to do. I think the easiest sensors to do are the soil moisture sensors, and there's a free 3D thing that you can print that I've got out on this. Those are the easiest, just like onboard and get an idea of oh, this is how a sensor works. This is how you onboard it. This is how you get the information. And it's kind of like this nerd, like entry to nerd stuff that you can do. And there's at least 2 blog posts on the Gristleking blog about those sensors. The name of them, Maker Fabs, I think is the
That's the one.
name of those guys. So those are really easy to use. The rest of the stuff will just come from what are you trying to do with the happy farm animals? Are you trying to count the number of pigs going in and out of a sty? Are you counting horses? Are you looking for the weight on chickens? Do you want to know how many eggs have been laid? just kind of think how much light they have, whether or not the door is locked, how much water's in their watering trough. All of that stuff comes down to like, what do you want to do? There's some really, really cool, water level sensor. I know I've got one back there. Rack's got one that's a liquid level sensor. And then the other thing to ask yourself is, how accurate do you need these to be? So some of the liquid level sensors are accurate to a couple inches, some to a couple millimeters, some to a couple feet. And so figuring out, all right, what do I need to do? So I guess if the water level sensor is the start, think about how that water, also the system is set up. Is it a tank that you can put a little device in the bottom? Let me go grab this thing so I can show you.
Yeah. You could even throw a door open close sensor on a float switch, and there's a bunch of ways to sort of cobble these things together.
Yeah. So this thing here, I want to say this bottom piece sticks onto the tank, and then this is obviously the transmitter and the receiver. And that is a LDDS20 from
right.
Dragino. Non-contact liquid level sensor. But it doesn't matter but that's just one example.
By the way, those are actually pretty cool on like propane tanks and stuff like that, where you can't open it because you can sense it from the outside. So you just strap that to the bottom.
Yeah. In fact, that's what I was going to use that on. I just never got back out to that farm to put that on. I had this little test bed out here and then got distracted with a million other things.
So yeah, I've got one sitting on my shelf right now for the exact same reason.
Yeah. Nice.
Another
good.
Another one that I'll throw out there is the weather station. Seed Studio makes a great all-in-one weather station, or if you want to go the like ready-to-use route, WeatherXM sells the effective. It's a slightly different SKU, but they wrap it all up for you, and they actually have really robust APIs. So probably just take advantage of that.
Yeah. So I think there's some. I'm looking at this thing. Sorry, LDDS20. I'll put it in the comments. And then Nico, you can just Google that thing and find it. So Joey, that's a really good point as far as like how easy do you want the thing to be? So if you want like super easy, just buy a WeatherXM station. It's going to be slightly more expensive and you won't have to mess around with anything on the data credit side. So I think those things run $400 maybe. Maybe they're going to be 300, but I think they're 400. Versus if you buy it from Seed, I don't know, it's probably like $100 less, but you'll have to do all the geeky parts of setting it up and feeding it data credits and the rest of it. So you just decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to learn some nerdy stuff and figure out some programming things and kind of wade into it yourself? Or do you want to, have all that shit done for you? So, and those things can use Helium. Yeah.
Actually, Seed Studio has their SenseCap app. If I'm remembering correctly, that's what they call it. So a lot of those devices do have an easy onboard path.
Yep.
But you're going to get like a more, for like a weather station, you're going to get a more catered experience out of a weather app rather than like a data analysis app that's trying to like put wind speed on a flow chart or, whatever.
Yep. Let's see, Travis, does your enclosure fit all versions? I think he's talking about the soil moisture sensor. Let me just show you what I'm talking about, Joey, because I know you've seen it. Jesus Christ.
I like Travis is taking it straight to explosive environments. Like this garden just got real wild.
There we go. Okay. So here's the enclosure. This is a two-piece enclosure. Comes apart here. Joey, you've seen this before. The soil moisture sensor is this guy, and it goes in. Whoops. I don't know if I showed that really well, but slides in there, and then the cap goes on.
Yeah, that's super clean.
There are two versions of this. There's one for this red stick, which, I think it's like the V2 or the LoRaWAN or the V3 or something. All the instructions are on the blog, so it's if you can read, it's super straightforward. But yeah, there should be there should be enclosures for either of those two on there.
Now you got me regretting taking my call from the sauna room, as y'all call it, instead of my garage with all the fun stuff in it.
All your stuff in there. Let's see. Okay, 619 ready to use when mainnet. He's talking about WeatherXM. Soon.
It's ready to use. I'm using it. It works great.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a great point. Is right now you will get all your weather data off it. In fact, it's right. It's that little thing right there. So I've been using that for the last 2 years to look at weather. It'll start earning tokens on mainnet soon. I know the Greek team which is where that thing is based, just came off of Orthodox Easter, which is apparently a giant holiday where they slaughter every lamb possible in Greece. So nice, Joey. And so now that all the lambs have been killed, they can get back to working on weather stations. So let's say as soon as the answer.
That is just the wildest. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, nice. Thanks, 619. This is there's that thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And if you
Actually,
look,
I'm clicking that link too because I want to buy one of those things.
hit that thing. If you go to the gristleking.com, or sorry, not the, if you go to gristleking.com and look for maker fabs or soil moisture in the whatever the search bar is there, I'm sure you'll find both of those things.
So I think this warrants a little bit of background story, which is like your Discord, like a bunch of folks discovered this thing. I don't know if you discovered it.
Wasn't me, no.
But it was Laura only, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
when
we're
the
getting a
thing
couple
was
of
like
stuff I
first
understand.
posted.
Yeah.
And like nobody had built LoRaWAN stuff for it. Like you guys went in and just like, it's got all the chips. It should be able to do the thing. And they're actually billing it as LoRaWAN now. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't that in the first place.
Correct. Yeah, there are two different versions.
Hardware and like upgraded it for them.
Yep. Oh, Nico, cool. So Nico's got this great questions, and it sounds, Nico, like you're kind of new to helium, which is rad. We haven't done one of these shows that's like helium helpful in a while. So is there an easy helium solution to connect the sensor to an action like refilling the tank? The way to think of this, Nico, is that there's two ways to go. There's two ways for information to move from the sensor to basically the cloud or the LoRaWAN network server, and then from the LoRaWAN network server down to the sensor. Most of sensors out there, they move from the sensor to the cloud. So it'll just be the soil moisture, and that's called class A. And that's like, hey, the temperature, the soil, whatever, soil moisture is 85%. The temperature is 30 degrees or whatever it is. If you want to actuate something or make something happen at the sensor, you're going to use what's called class C. Now, these are all LoRaWAN modes. And Joey, just put your hand up, be like, stop talking if I'm getting this wrong.
Good so far.
Yeah. Travis put in C there. Thank you. So class C means that the device is always listening to hear when it should do something. Now that brings with it the requirement for a usually much higher battery or power requirement because it always has to be on and listening. So one of the fundamental strengths of LoRaWAN is that these sensors can be really low battery powered because they basically just wake up every hour, send out a really tiny piece of data, and even though it goes a long way, it's not very much power to send it out. And so they can last for, I remember hearing years in the field. I don't think I've had any sensors last 2 years, maybe 1 year. Most of them, yeah.
Some Draghinos that bumped up on 2 years, yeah.
So I think in most cases, like 6 months is reasonable to think about. Like, all right, and this is an important piece is when you plan this stuff in, and you can talk to I think his username is 𝐒𝐩𝐨𝐬𝐸 in England. He's got a bunch of these sensors deployed, and my guess is he's also going to tell you like, look, just plan in that every 6 months you're going to replace the batteries. It may not be that. It may be every 8 months, maybe every year and a half. But if you plan for every 6 months as just part of your like overall system design, that's a really nice way to think of it.
Yeah. And this touches on another thing that we talked about a couple weeks back, but you can throw solar on a lot of these things, and that changes that story too. But yeah.
Yeah, and so that part is getting super exciting. There's two things I've seen. I think solar is the less cutting edge of the two.
We got RF harvesting.
Have you seen that? Did you see the soil thing? Like getting energy from the soil or transmitting energy through the soil?
I've seen some weird like academic papers on stuff like that, but nothing like commercial.
Okay. So I just saw this thing. I think it was in the AF part of the Gristleking server. Was there something where basically like you blast energy into the soil, and as long as the field is regularly irrigated or watered, there's enough connectivity through the soil that the energy can I'm making all this hand wavy shit up and just like making up vocabulary, that the energy can transmit through the soil to the sensor, so you can power all the sensors through the soil. Kind of cool.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds scary.
But yeah, like I don't think you're going to get shocked. Oh, look, BFG Neil, what's up, dog? The oyster in your car has been running for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Super cool. What's up, BFG? I think the link is probably the same, dog, if you want to come on. It's been way too long since I got to hang out with you. Oyster Derek is a tracking device. God, I probably got one of them fucking hanging around somewhere. I got a box of them. Those were the bigger ones. Oh. Right there. This is one of the older oysters. I think they have new, fancier or whatever. And these guys have, I'm not going to take all the screws out, but they've got 3 or 4 or 6 double A's in them. Maybe 4. And those are, yes, Class A. So those are only transmitting. They're not generally receiving. Yeah. Okay. So that was a lot of action in the chat today.
I was trying to send that to Nick. Or
What's that?
I just sent you a link to your own call. I was trying to send it over to Neil.
Over to Neil? Oh, cool.
Just in case he needs it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this may have changed. Okay, digital matter stuff. Use geothermal heat for hot water at your friends. Oh, super cool. Yeah, so I think one of the coolest things for me about helium has been the accessibility to kind of nerd stuff, where as a normal person, if you're just willing to read, you can get into some really technical things. And most of the problems are problems of imagination and system design, where, to go back to the original question of Nico's, like, hey, what can I do to, what was it? I want to I want to modernize my garden, make a happy farm animal app. It's like, okay, what does that mean? And I think we went through some of it, but really thinking, what do you want to know? How accurate do you need to know it? How frequently do you need to know it? Like those are all the things that make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was really similar. Like I was playing around with sensors with Arduino and doing various things before I found out about helium, before I found out about LoRaWAN. And then it was the connecting piece to be like, oh, now I can actually like put this in a spreadsheet somewhere and like have those insights. Whereas before it was just like, maybe I can like make a, LCD screen showed me the temperature or something like that, which is just a thermometer. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like, a fun exercise to like learn this stuff before, but now there's actually like a reason to do it. And it's pretty cool.
Let's see Travis, we should do an oyster giveaway. God knows I've got enough of them, Travis. You sent me a box of like 40 for that paragliding thing. So yeah, totally.
I think you sent me one. I've got somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And then Nico, this is a good question. If I have a 5G helium but no internet, does that get me in on some data transfer to and from the internet? No, I don't. If I'm understanding your question correctly, no. So these are two separate things. 5G will be, think of that, that's for your phone, and then the LoRaWAN will be for devices, and they don't talk to each other. You can have, confusingly, you can have both radios in one box in some of the older boxes. But typically you need 2 different sets. Joe, you got anything to add to
that? Yeah, the other angle here, if I'm understanding correctly, is like the box itself needs to be connected to the internet somehow, whether it's a LoRaWAN gateway or a 5G gateway. Like they don't mesh, which is a common misconception. Yep. So like they're not talking to the other boxes around for their internet. Like they need internet connected to them.
Yep. And that will be called backhaul. So you'll hear people's like, oh, you got to have backhaul. It just means a connection to the internet. It's nothing.
Yep.
Nothing crazy. Okay, if you've got a Bobcat, you've either got the Bobcat 300 or the Bobcat was the 500 was the 5G one. Both of them have IoT built in. Yep. Sorry, they both have LoRaWAN built in. So cool. Maybe a big antenna instead of the 5G. I'm not sure that not sure that we're doing a good job of explaining this. So they're two different systems. Think of it as like 2 different languages, like French and German. You can't speak French to a German person and hope they understand. I mean, maybe you can because Europeans speak so many languages, but yeah. So if you've got, if you think of LoRaWAN as whatever, French, and the 5G or the mobile is German, they're just going to be 2 separate languages, and each will require its own antenna, its own backhaul, its own et cetera, to the thing. So, but if you got a 300, you have the LoRaWAN piece, Nico, and you should be fine.
Yeah. It will have come with an antenna. It's a little round little round plug
Yeah.
on the back. It's the one that's not the power. And then, yeah.
Let's see. I got a couple other things. So I saw actually 619 brought this up on the GK server. Is that the Andreas Spiess? Remember that guy, the guy with the Swiss accent?
I do, yeah.
He just did a video on RTK and took a casual swat at Helium. He just said he
I
didn't
saw
like it.
that.
Yeah.
He still really does. I'm gonna find that guy. I'm just gonna like we're gonna have a real fun conversation one of
Yeah.
these days.
It's like, hey,
Not
let's
threat like I actually really want to talk to him because it's I I think there's a lot of stuff about Helium that is getting missed. His thought at Helium was like there's no like nobody will use it because
mm,
it's LoRaWAN.
yeah.
I think was kind of the if I'm summarizing that correctly.
I think, yeah, his
Uh,
position was that there's not enough business in transmitting, there's not enough money basically in transmitting LoRaWAN messages to make Helium a convincing business case.
yeah.
So
Um,
I
yeah.
think there's,
I don't know. We're transmitting roughly 5 million messages a day right now. We definitely have a lot of room to grow,
yeah,
but
there's
that's
room to grow. And
I
there's
don't know.
also like the right use case for it. You know, there's some stuff where if your sensor's never going to move ever and you just want it in your house and it's 300 feet away, like, yeah, there's better, or there's other
Right.
options. But if you're trying to track something going across the country, you know, across the world,
There's no other option right now, unless you're trying to do satellite or
yeah.
some other protocol, right? So yeah,
Yep. And then he also, because it was an RTK thing, he talked about Onakoi, which I thought was pretty cool.
hmm
He's like, hey, check these guys out. And it was nice to see him say, hey, this is why I like Onakoi. There are certainly other players in the DePIN space in RTK and GPS stuff, but he called out Onakoi and saying, look, the guy who runs that is really well known, super sensible dude, and also went to the same school, I guess, that Andres went to. He's like, all right, this guy's
I
reliable.
think
Yeah.
there's some buddy buddy stuff in there. They're both Swiss, so yeah.
Yeah, those Swiss. So I thought that was really cool. I know I'll be playing with Onakoi stuff pretty soon. So
No,
that's
I appreciated the video in the broad strokes, and it was interesting to hear him sort of clap back to the original Helium video. But
yeah, yep,
yeah,
yeah. He's never been casual about helium. Yeah,
no,
he's a neat dude. I think that'd be a fun thing to see if Foundation would be like, hey, like let's do a video, Joey, like finding spice or spice.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun to track him
I'm
down.
sure I'll end up running into him if I make it out to like the Things conference or something like that. The LoRaWAN space is very 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 small, so
Yeah.
well, we'll
Yep, I'm
cross
definitely
paths
brainstorm.
eventually.
But I thought it was neat to see, you know, the thing that I came away from there is that back to the top of the convo is things are happening in DePIN
Mhm.
right now that are still for most people kind of under whatever behind the curtain or deep underwater with like a iceberg analogy. But there's a ton of stuff happening, and you know, who knows when exactly it's gonna the top's gonna blow off this thing. But there's a lot of activity down there, so. Yeah, maybe we get see if we can get Andres on here and do a Satna with him. That'd be great.
Yeah, or just talk deep in and kind of hear what he's excited about for other things that could leverage that kind of a rollout strategy.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Nico hit this again just for clarity. Seems I can get by. Yeah, you can get by with just a bobcat for the garden. In fact, if you put your bobcat up high in your house, and or if you get the antenna outside, not only will it cover your garden, it'll probably cover your town. Although that may be an overestimation depending on where you live and what the local topography is. I think it's pretty safe to say it'll cover at least a kilometer or two around your house pretty reliably. But it totally depends on what you're doing. It won't connect to other bobcats and like bounce through them, which is the mesh idea.
Yeah,
That's a common misconception.
Teague, we don't talk about the relay spec. It's not. It's bad times.
We might as well. Yeah.
Uh,
So
it it's not what it sounds like. Is maybe my yeah.
okay. Let's see. I'm looking through. We got on the helium kick. I'm looking through the DPU5 stuff. So on the Gristleking server, I just fed a bunch of different server announcements into that, so I can kind of quickly look through it. I'll tell you, Demo does a really good job every Friday of putting out kind of everything that happened that week.
Hmm.
I know that Helium right now is doing like a Helium and You share your story thing. and I don't know if that's
Mhm.
Helium Mobile or Foundation, or if those are two different things. I know I've been talking to Mobile about doing a video for them.
It Yeah, so the idea there's it's Helium IoT or mobile. So if you have a Helium mobile plan, you're like, this is the best cell phone plan I've ever had, or if it's the worst cell phone plan I've ever had, but I'm using it anyway, um, like go throw your name in the hat there.
Yeah.
Um, if you're using IoT in any regard, whether you've gone and mapped or you've built a device or like whatever that is, that's we also want to see that. And the really big picture thing here is like we engage in a lot of like I guess lobbying, talking to members of Congress and all that fun stuff. Um, and we want to be able to basically point anywhere on the map and say your constituents are finding value in this thing that they have built themselves,
Yep.
and be able to tell that story time and time and time again. So the bigger index of folks that we have that we can go and point to, it doesn't have to be some groundbreaking like cool well detailed use case. Like it's just like we want to see where things are happening.
Cool. Super cool.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, I
and that,
talked to the Nova folks and they've got the slickest setup for like making user videos. They've got this app where they tell you like the storyboard and they're like, hey, this is what we want you to say. Like use your own words to answer the question, but here's the question we want to answer. And I was super excited to film it. And then I just got busy with 900 other things. So I haven't
oh, you
filmed
might
it.
have to show me that because I'm due to record something on Friday with somebody, and I need to get my setup together.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's just an app, so it requires work on the back end. So on the Nova side, one of their whatever PR folks has to say like, hey, what's your name? What do you do? How are you involved with Helium, et cetera. It's like so they have to kind of build the storyboard, and then it's just like Mad Libs, like you just fill it in. So yeah,
interesting. All right, well, I'll keep an eye out for that.
I'll look if I can see the app on my thing.
Right now, I'm probably going to copy your setup with Ecamm, and this thing seems to be working great.
Oh yeah. This thing is fine. Oh, Cinebody is the app that they use, but Cinebody I think it's for sending to people so that they film a video for you. So it's like it's for generating user generated content,
Oh, that's cool.
make it easier. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. Can Travis build a gateway? Travis can do anything. So
Yeah, always be building gateways.
ABBG.
This is there for connecting the Bobcats.
All right. What purpose is there for connecting the Bobcats?
Yeah,
You're not connecting the Bobcats. You're just connecting your node to a greater network, Nico. So the giant network is Helium. You're contributing. When you deploy a Bobcat, you're adding a node to that network so that there's coverage for that radio protocol. In this case, LoRaWAN. So your Bobcat in your area. So before, if someone drove by with a tracker, they wouldn't have been able to send data from that tracker back through the network to wherever it goes. Once you put your Bobcat up, now you're providing coverage in that area. So just think of it as like these little, kind of colored overlay circles being put onto a map around your house. Wherever those colored overlay circles are is where you have coverage. The more Helium nodes are out there, the more coverage you have across the wider space. It's pretty darn likely if you live in the developed world that there is Helium coverage where you are. So you could just put a sensor in the garden, but you'll have kind of better connectivity typically if you put your own gateway up,
Yeah,
your own hotspot
yeah.
up.
Deploying gateways offers redundancy. It offers stronger signal strength locally. Like there's still plenty of reasons to go deploy your own gateway, even if you're leveraging like the broader network. Um, but the driving it home a little bit, the users of the network is um, like being able to provide that coverage for yourself, but also everyone else that's driving around or whatever looking for that coverage, and being able to provide that. And then of course the data credit that they spend to transfer that data goes directly to that gateway that you're operating. So they're in effect paying you directly when they use that radio that you've got set up. And I think I always love to point to the demo map, which maybe somebody can pull up and throw in the chat or something. But it's a map showing all of the hotspots that have transferred data for Demo's Macaron devices over the past 7 days or 30 days. Like there's a couple toggles in there, and it's pretty impressive, the just the sheer amount of gateways that are responsible for transferring that traffic.
I'm trying to think of what the demo, it's not demo.com, but it's probably explorer.demo.something is my guess. IO or something. Let's see. Can you look at other people's, it's turning into like a Helium Lorewine show. Rad. Can you look at other people's data? You can see that data is passed through your gateway. You can't see what that data is. So you can see like, all right, someone put this amount of data through my gateway, but I don't think you can see what kind of device it came from. And I'm pretty sure you can't see what that data actually is. You can just see that some volume came through.
Yeah.
Let's see. Data usage is none. Yep. Cool. And you can see the metadata. Hey, let's take a quick break and talk about our sponsor. No,
Let's get on the topic for a minute. So,
yeah. I want to make sure we give some love to some other DePINs. So I saw that Wingbits announced that they have a new dashboard out, and it looks like the wings earned are out there. I haven't even looked at mine yet. I know that when I look at mine in general, they've been pretty good kind of compared to everyone else, and comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also a deliver of triumph. So it's nice to see that, to set up the Wingbit stuff, which is tracking planes. And then what else did I see that came through? God, just saw this and it was the coolest thing. Dang it. So Wingbits is out there.
I think IONet also just launched a bunch of new stuff, which I've mentioned a couple of times. I find it to be intriguing. They seem to be going through a lot of like go to market and growing pains and stuff like that. Like they launching new stuff, break some stuff, they fix it, but they seem to be figuring it out along the way.
Yeah. Let's see. There's all kinds of stuff in the chat. Is there Tikarimbasa? I think I've seen this name a ton. Any way to know what sort of data, the 5 million bytes of data per day?
You're taking us straight back into Helium here.
Yeah.
This is on you.
I'm trying to think of the other one, because there's this other one that I just saw that did God dang it, just did a new dashboard. Oh, Frodobots. That's it. Is Frodobots just did their new dashboard, and they are, according to them, weeks away from doing the share your bot. So in the next couple weeks, I think, well, certainly when we do it here, Joey, maybe you and I can do like a bot share, because I've got 2 of them. I'll share one of them with you and we can stream that live.
Oh yeah.
I may or may not be
doing
that with
like javelins on them or something. Like, how do we?
I mean, sure.
With jousting at the sidewalk.
I'll joust. I'm down.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get a couple extra. So we have like a massive robot combat thing.
Yeah.
So they just came up with a new dashboard, and they are now tracking and showing like the points. I think they call them Frodobot points that you earn. But yeah, it's super cool to see these projects moving pretty quickly. And I think there's, again, going back to the top, is that there's all this action underneath the surface that you don't see. And then this little thing bubbles up and you're like, oh, that's cool. And it took a ton of work. And it also shows just how much more is coming out in the next couple weeks or months. I know that on the non-DePIN side, the Rabbit R1 has been doing a ton of updates. They've been getting a ton of shit, and I'm using them generally for comedy and to settle potential points of historical differences with my wife, where it's like, hey, when was Leonardo da Vinci born? Or I think the thing yesterday was like, what is the historical significance or the provenance of it's raining cats and dogs? So it's like, it's a funny thing to fuck around, but it's nice to have something you just pick up. You're not flipping through for an app. You just push a button, ask it a question, and it gives you the wrong answer. So
yeah, that's really been lighting up my Twitter feed of people pulling the APKs off of the hardware. They're being like, this is just a Linux phone with a button on it.
This thing's running Android. I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how the thing shakes out. And again, that was $200. That's like, okay, my job is to have as much fun as possible with this $200.
You're doing great with it.
Yeah. Travis, mine just tells me how broken it is over and over. Yeah, I think it's a funny thing.
Travis took my advice with the screwdriver, didn't he?
Did you get into that thing, Travis? I can't imagine him not doing it. He did put a lanyard on it, and he put a lanyard with really thin
Straight through the
cord
middle.
around the little rolling thing. So he put it right here,
Okay.
wherever the pin is that
Okay.
holds that wheel, is where he put it. So yeah. It comes with a $200 credit for what? Oh, for Perplexity, right? I think is. I know we all got access to Perplexity.
That's not
So
bad.
yeah,
Isn't the thing like $200 in the first place? Three,
yeah,
two.
yeah. I think you get a 1 year credit to Perplexity, which is worth $200. So whatever, free.
Go
And I've used
ham with that.
Perplexity. It's been a super cool AI thing because it gives you all the references it talks about. So it'll say, hey, this is what is true, and here's how you can check it yourself. And I've used
Mm.
that to write articles when I have a question like, hey, what is the size of the gaming industry? You know, for this piece I'm working on over on Gold Hawks. And I was like, okay, here's 3 things to think about in how you size it. And here are these 3 articles that size it in different ways.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah,
So
that in and of itself is a bit of a game changer for this stuff.
yeah, I think if you're writing kind of data and fact-based articles, Perplexity is a total killer. ChatGPT is like a way for you to do a shitty job cheating on your homework as far as
Mm.
writing. But Perplexity is really levels that up and makes sure that you have the background. So that stuff's super cool to see
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else going on in your world? I'm trying to think of. Let's see. There's a DePIN that has been around for a while. I think I'll talk about those guys next week. I want to make sure that we're all happy with that story. But those guys are super exciting. And then there's just been a ton going on. I got to get this 𝐒𝐩𝐨𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩 interview launched on DePIN State. I did it like a week or two ago and then got totally caught up. I was on top of that mountain last Saturday. I burned my damn
Oh
face
yeah,
off.
that looked awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I should have been like nerding out and video editing, I was like, no, I'm gonna go blast up San Gorgonio.
cool. Yeah, I met Jing probably like 2 years ago or something. Some dinner with Hotspotty and a couple investors and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's rad. She's rad.
yeah.
It's
Say hi.
neat to see like how all these different people come into the space. She came in obviously from the investor side, but you know, you get like super nerds like Travis coming in from the ultra nerd side and folks like me coming in from the whatever, like, can I use this in the real world side? It's a pretty cool ecosystem that we're in right now with DePIN in general. So many different people.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's exciting stuff.
cool. What else you got,
Yeah.
Joey? Anything? You hitting the notes
Uh,
here? You
I
reading
mean,
quickly?
it's been a catch up week for me, largely. Coming back from Germany and all this other stuff. So I was just looking at my like GitHub activity thing, and it's just like solid for the past week and a half after I've been back. So it's that, and if there was a GitHub little pulse chart for emails, I'd be lighting it up right now. But
Dude.
um,
Yeah.
oh, the did we talk about the educational LNS going live?
You touched on it I think last week, and it was, if I remember right, you can use the thing for 24 hours. You add a device to it. You can whatever burn some data through that, and then after 24 hours, it gets booted off. So it's a way to check things out. Is that true? Is there an unlimited amount of data you can pass, or is it whatever 200 data cards or
It's
something?
no. So the way it's set up is we made a provision on the packet routing system that data transfer through the Helium Type 6 NetID would be unbilled. So data credits effectively do not apply. Um, and this is for the like there's a bunch of sort of rules that we've gone and attached there with that. But that was we passed that as a HIP and all of that stuff. And so now we have this service that sits on top of that. Uh, and so people can go and spin up as many devices as they want, do as much data transfer as they want, and that will go through the Helium network. But gateways won't be rewarded for the traffic that happens there, so you don't have to
Okay.
worry about somebody just like
Gaming. Yep.
farming. Um, and then yeah, the device removes itself from that instance, removes itself from packet router after 24 hours, and then can't be re-added for I think it was a period of 2 weeks, just to sort of set a buffer there. And some of those numbers may change over time, but yeah, this is opening up a lot of really cool stuff for us to do, like documentation. Travis earlier in the chat was talking about like some Class C documentation that he wrote. Now you can imagine something like that now where you actually have windows where you're running code and you can see a live device right in your documentation. You can provision it keys, and you don't have to like tell somebody to go create an account somewhere and then come back. Like you can do all that stuff right in line. So pretty cool way to open up access for a lot of folks. And I think this is something that even the LoRa Alliance is going to be really excited to see as well, because they sort of try to figure out how to like increase education efforts.
And Travis is saying
Yeah.
it's way too short to set it up and show to a client. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
and
if you're
that's about
doing
design.
this, like take some screenshots.
Or go stand it up on an LNS, right? Like this thing is purely for the reason of education. So this is like what I'm doing in a session, in a classroom, in a workshop.
Yep.
And then anything beyond that, go to Medio Scientific, go to, you know, whatever. I'm just
There's
gonna
only one good option there. It's Media Scientific. Yeah.
exactly. So yep, that's the idea. Awesome. Make non-internet hotspots just relays to a hotspot that does have internet. Anything is possible. It's sort of the high-level answer there, but at a low level, I have to say no.
No. Now, if you're Travis, you can do that. If you're anyone else, probably not. And maybe
Yeah,
even Travis can't do it. I got so
a
much
bit
faith
of the
in him.
challenge here, just to to touch on it, is like the gateway has 8 channels. It expects to do downlinks on one of those channels all the time. And so, yeah, to relay that stuff over in a way that's scalable is, not fun times.
Yep.
Just make sure they're connected to the internet. That's really the easiest thing. They reach far enough.
Let's see. Is there any link between GeoDNet and Helium as there is with WeatherXM? Nope. I think the founder over at GeoDNet has been fairly disparaging about Helium, if I remember right. And they haven't figured out a way to work together. So I think the great hope is that all of these different projects get to work together, and they should just work with each other to help, help grow the whole space. But for whatever reason, I think that particular partnership didn't work out. So
Yeah, Geode could make sense as a subnetwork on Helium to leverage the sort of same economic models and data credits and all that kind of stuff. But gateways don't necessarily need that data. RTK doesn't really need LoRaWAN. Yeah, they're kind of different things.
I think one of the things proposed, and it may turn out that 𝐒𝐻𝐲 does it, was to help with pinpointing where a hotspot is and to provide a second source of truth for location. It was much bigger deal when you could earn a lot of money by gaming. Now that the gaming is not mostly squashed, but just it's not as profitable, it's not as high on the priority list. But I think something like 𝐒𝐻𝐲 could come in and say, okay, hey, we can prove down to the centimeter where this thing is, and maybe that's some additional hardware that goes on. Maybe that's another mapping device. Maybe that's some a bunch of other stuff that comes out. But there are definitely paths where these projects could work together, but right now it's not happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah, anytime where like an electronic, like an internet connected device is with confidence physically, like you can start to like extrapolate neighboring devices and things like that.
Yeah, no, the proof location thing is a huge deal for all these different projects. Almost every client that we have, they need to look at proof location.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're always saying like, you should check out this thing called Helium. It'll get you close. So
yeah, it's cool. Been looking at the demo Macron, it seems to be working really well for them.
Yeah.
They also have GPS that helps, but you get a really strong confidence interval around the gateway doing the work and the GPS.
Yeah. Dude, I'll finish this off with the non-DePIN stuff. Like I was saying, I went up this mountain. There's a ton of snow at the top of it. I put on my little micro spikes, which are like mini crampons, and blasted up this thing. It's 11,500 feet. There's probably snow from like 9,500 up. the last 2,000 feet, maybe even lower down on the north side. And it got me fired up to get into ski touring and ski-mo racing. I was like, I've never done that. I'd love to do that. I'm going to go figure that thing out. I'm going to train super hard all summer and then just show up at some race and see what I can do. And as I was, walking around this morning, like doing my little bird feeder thing and out in the back feeding peanuts to squirrels, I was like, I bet I could put a backpack on with a hotspot in it like I used to do and set up some tracking for ski-mo races. That would be super, super fun. So it's like this full circle back to like, how do you locate people in the wilderness where there isn't an easy way to locate them? Because GPS doesn't always work. And it'd be cool to have that third location option. So we may see, no promises. This is just like total hand wavy bullshit, but may see by the end of the year. We'll see if Gristleking can sponsor some like location thing for a ski-mo race. Would be cool.
That would be killer. Yeah. It's about time we saw those rack stickers as like the race badges.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That's super cool. Huh. Maybe I'll talk to those guys because I know. I mean, literally the guy who invented LoRa is now like that's what he does now. Is he's got this company and they put up these what we would call hotspots. They're what they call gateways all around the mountains, and they track races. So I was like, I'll reach out to him and see what's going on. But we can probably do the same kind of thing with with helium.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be killer. There's hints of sticker trackers coming out with GPS on them too. So like that could be like a super accurate version of the same thing. So
yeah, down to the centimeter.
Yep.
So cool. Well, I think that's probably close enough to the hour, Joey. I thought this was going to be like 20 minutes, but we ended up shooting the shit about stuff we both like, so that's always good.
Yeah, good show.
Yeah. Good to see you. I will see you next week. And I guess in the meantime, rock and roll. Hit us on Discord, whatever the internet's. And have a good one.
Sweet. All right. Later.
Thanks, everybody. We're out.